Randy Newman even wrote a song about the Cuyahoga fire. Burn on, Big River, burn on. Newman's song went, burn on, Big River, burn on. You'll never guess the title of his ballad to the Cuyahoga, Burn On. But 50 years later, the Cuyahoga is a point of pride for Cleveland, having been the focus of a $3.5 billion restoration effort that has helped anchor a broader revitalization of Cleveland. And it has just been named River of the Year by American River, a Washington-based organization focused on protecting the nation's waterways. The near-miraculous recovery of the Cuyahoga is a testament to the efforts of local officials, begun by then-Mayor Carl Stokes, and to the success of one of the most significant pieces of environmental legislation in the nation's history, the Clean Water Act, which the Trump administration is now attempting to undercut. It's a dramatic comeback for the Cuyahoga, says Chris Williams, Vice President for Conservation at American River. For Clevelanders, the comeback is also an affirmation of the Midwestern spirit. "We were never the mistake by the lake," Senator Sherrod Brown, D. Ohio, told News Pulse News, referencing the nickname with which Cleveland was tagged after 1969. It was Mayor Stokes, the first African American to lead Cleveland, who realized that by publicizing the fire, he could bring attention to the Cuyahoga's plight. The day after the fire, he went to the scene of the crime. Leaning against a wooden pillar on the river's banks, with the bridge leading to Republic Steel behind him, Stokes treated the event like the newsworthy catastrophe it should have been and would have been if such fires were not dismayingly commonplace. Stokes painted the city as a helpless victim of industry. "We have no jurisdiction over what's dumped in there," he complained. And Cleveland is a growing city, with luxury condominium buildings rising on the formerly blighted shores of the Cuyahoga. "You're not gonna have stuff like the flats on a river that's full of oil," explains Bob Wysensky, a retired Ohio EPA official, in an EPA video about the Cuyahoga. The reference is to the Flats East Bank, a massive redevelopment near where the Cuyahoga flows into Lake Erie. The Flats represents the kind of upscale initiative that would have been unthinkable 2 decades ago. Brown, who moved back to Cleveland from the suburbs 5 years ago, argues that conservatives for too long have been given license to peddle without much challenge what he says is the false narrative that you either have good environment policy or good jobs policy. Brown argues that good environmental policy can be good jobs policy, pointing to the massive solar panel manufacturing plant now being built in Toledo, which is expected to add 500 jobs. In the meantime, the Trump administration has moved to cancel or delay many of the environmental regulations that it believes hamper growth in the extractive industries and heavy manufacturing. Those are many of the same regulations that have kept river fires from becoming a normal occurrence of American life, on the order of, say, early morning presidential tweet storms. Brown calls Trump a tool of the oil and gas industry. As harsh as that charge may be, Trump does have Andrew Wheeler, a former coal lobbyist, heading the EPA, and Department of Interior Chief David Bernhard, also a former lobbyist, carries a card with all of his potential conflicts of interests. Wheeler's predecessor at the EPA, Scott Pruitt, led a sustained assault on the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act before being forced to resign in ignominy last year. Pruitt canceled the Waters of the United States rule, an Obama-era directive that had expanded the provisions of the Clean Water Act. According to Williams, the American Rivers vice president, that rollback could endanger 18% of the nation's rivers and half of its wetlands. Pruitt also repealed Obama's Clean Power Plan, which would have hastened the transition away from fossil fuels. Bernhard's predecessor, Ryan Zinke, who like Pruitt ended his career as a public official in disgrace, wantonly leased public lands to oil and gas companies, endangering pristine areas across the West. But as Williams of American River says, the Trump administration can't simply strip away protections by fiat. It falls to cities and states to fight the administration in court. Attorneys general like Maura Healey of Massachusetts and New York's Barbara Underwood, who has since left office, fought Pruitt in court, keeping him from critical victories in Trump's war against the regulatory state. that battle will continue as long as Trump is in office, for the Cuyahoga, the Hudson and every other river in the nation.